Hello and welcome to episode 128. My guest today is Cathy, and she is sharing her trip tale all about being at Walt Disney World during a hurricane. Cathy has a lot of great tips and information, so if you ever find yourself at Disney during a hurricane, this is definitely an episode to listen to. Welcome to Disney Travel Tales. I am your host, Jenny, and I am very thankful you are here today. This podcast is designed to help you plan the most magical Disney vacation, whether it be visiting Walt Disney World, Disneyland, or a Disney cruise. You will hear trip reports, news, and I will do my best to help keep you up to date on all things happening in the parks. Not traveling to Disney anytime soon? Then we're still the podcast for you. Sit back, relax, and immerse yourself in all things Disney. If you're ready to plan a trip, I would love to help you. Email me at jenny@trolleylanetravel.com and let's get the conversation started. Don't forget to follow the show on Instagram and Facebook at Disney Travel Tales. And with that, let's get to today's show. Hello, Cathy. Thank you for joining me today on the show. I'm so excited to have you on.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
Cathy just got back from Disney. She was there during the hurricane. And so that is kind of what we are going to be focusing this episode on, is just kind of talking about that experience, because it is definitely not that common, which is crazy for Florida, but it really is not that common. Cathy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience with Disney vacations?
Sure. Okay. So my name is Cathy. I live in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area with my husband, EJ. We have 3 dogs and 13 chickens. We are both singers, and that's actually how we met over 16 years ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we sing mostly for fun, but we do paid gigs occasionally, mostly choral music.
Mm-hmm.
We perform regularly with Chorus Angelorum Chattanooga, which is a nonprofit chamber choir in Chattanooga. So shameless plug if you want to check us out on YouTube or Facebook.
That's awesome. I'm definitely going to check that out. That's great.
Yeah. So as a day job, I work for an IT company in the sales department. I've been working there for 10 years, which is actually the main reason for my trip. All employees are awarded a vacation with a companion to a location of their choice when they hit their 10-year anniversary working for the company. So, of course, there is a budget, but it was generous. And EJ and I actually celebrated our 9-year wedding anniversary this month as well. So we ended up, thank you. We ended up putting a little extra of our own money into the trip to make it, just a little bit extra special.
Absolutely. Y'all definitely had a great location, which we'll talk about all of that in a little bit. What's funny is I've worked with a few clients from your company, and you were my first Disney one. I'm not going to lie. I was so excited.
Yay. I know we do have some Disney fans at our company, so I'm sure you'll get to work with another Disney person soon.
That would be great, because I love Disney and I love planning the vacation. So I was so excited to get to help you.
Yeah. I was just going to say, this is actually, this was my first time to Disney as an adult. I had been twice as a kid, but that was like over 20 years ago, so I really don't remember anything. My husband had also been twice, most recently in 2019. He was awarded a trip through his work, but there were conferences during the day, so they really only went to the parks for a couple of hours in the evenings, but he still had a great time. Anyway, this was our first trip to Disney together.
That's awesome. I didn't even realize this was y'all's first trip together. How much fun.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I mean, Disney as a kid is great. I went twice when I was a kid, but Disney as an adult is just the best.
Yes.
I think you just appreciate it more.
Yeah, for sure.
That's so cool. Okay, so let's get into it and just talk about your trip. Do you happen to remember your travel dates right off the bat?
It was October 6th through the 10th, I think, which we ended up extending it, but we'll talk about that later on.
Yeah, for sure. And what resort did y'all stay at?
The Polynesian.
Yes, so nice and so much fun. Why did you pick this resort? Because you did specifically request this resort. So why was this kind of the one that you were interested in?
Yeah, so I had watched some YouTube videos, like some walkthroughs and stuff like that. And the Polynesian just looked so relaxing with that, tropical vibe and everything. And I know the Polynesian is on a lot of people's bucket lists to stay there. So I was like, well, since we're getting a little extra help with this trip from my work, why not splurge and just go for it? So we did.
That's awesome. The Polynesian is so nice, and a lot of people don't realize it was opened on opening day when Magic Kingdom opened. So it's an OG.
Yeah, and it's been like updated and like taken care of so nicely. Like I would have never known that it was that old.
Absolutely. And the rooms all were redone right around, I think they did them during COVID, during the shutdown. So when they reopened back up, most of the rooms were redone and they're just so beautiful.
Yeah, I really liked the Moana theme.
Hmm. It's fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so most of my episodes are like a trip tale where you kind of break down every single thing, but this one we are going to focus on the whole hurricane situation. So, going into your trip, how much did you actually like know about the hurricane and the like where it was coming and the location and all of that?
Okay, so I'll start with the day before we left, which
Mhm.
was Saturday. And this was really the first I had heard about the storm. It was the day right before we left. So at that time, it was still a tropical storm, but it was expected to develop into a hurricane. The models were all showing Orlando being directly in the center of the path. But, that early in the development of a hurricane, the meteorologists are just making their best educated guess as to the path it will take and how strong it will be. Um, I had talked to several friends who have connections in Orlando, and they were like, oh, don't worry. Orlando never gets hit directly by hurricanes. They always end up turning to the north or to the south. So I was still a little nervous at that point, but not
Mhm.
nervous enough to cancel this amazing trip that we had been
Yeah.
looking forward to since January.
Absolutely. I mean, I think too, that's one thing. There was a lot of chatter on the social media pages and stuff that, oh, you should cancel. But there's so much planning that goes into these trips. People who haven't been, they don't realize it's not really that easy to recancel and like reschedule and take off work and all of that.
Right. Yeah. Right. So, yeah, on Sunday, as planned, around 4 a.m., we began the long drive straight down I-75 to Orlando. Um, because Hurricane Helene had just hit, I think it was just the week before. We had heard gas wasn't available everywhere,
Mhm.
so we decided not to let our gas tank get below, half a tank just to be on the safe side.
Mhm.
Um, but we didn't end up having any issues with that. There were some gas stations where not all of the pumps were working, but we were always able to get gas.
That's good.
Yeah. And we did see quite a bit of damage from Helene in South Georgia, mainly a lot of trees down, but some damage to buildings as well. And then as soon as we arrived at Disney, we topped off our tank just in case we decided we needed to leave. That way we could at least make it to Georgia.
Oh, that's so smart.
Yeah. So that was the beginning.
Yeah.
uh,
Very beginning.
then,
And it is so hard to predict, especially if like as a travel agent on my end. I don't because yeah, when they first were talking about it, it's just a tropical storm. And I'm like, well, that's not gonna hinder a trip. And then it got really strong and I was like, oh shoot. But then it got not as it was just so unpredictable at that point. Like no one knew what was going on.
yeah, and especially with Orlando being so far inland,
Mhm.
closer to the East Coast, really, we thought like, oh, it won't be that big of a deal. But
Mhm.
the next day, on Monday, we found out that Milton had gone from a category 1 to a category 5 overnight.
I see.
There was, yeah, there was talk about it possibly being the strongest hurricane on record. Of course, it was still over the ocean at that point, but it still made me panic a little. It was predicted to weaken some by the time it got to Orlando. Some sources were saying category 2, some were saying category 3, but the path had not changed.
Mhm.
Orlando was still showing like in the direct path. So I had friends and family reaching out to me again asking, are you going to come home? Like, this is getting kind of scary.
Mhm.
And we did consider it. I had never experienced a hurricane before, so I had no idea what to expect. We overheard some chatter about it that day, people saying, all the buildings were built to withstand a category 3 hurricane, and they
Mhm.
have generators, so we won't lose power. Everything will be fine. Disney will take care of us. And
Mhm.
you had told me that as well. So that was a little bit of reassurance. Um, but also, we were hearing reports of people who did decide to evacuate, not being able to find gas, which
Mhm.
we weren't particularly worried about that because, as I said, we did fill up our tank. But also, the traffic on the interstate was
Yeah.
really, really bad. I heard
Yeah.
later of a couple that did decide to evacuate from Orlando back to Chattanooga. And it's normally about an 8, 9 hour drive, and it took them over 20 hours to get
Oh
home.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're really glad that that wasn't us.
Mhm.
Um, so once again, we made the decision to stay. We spent this day at Magic Kingdom, and it did rain some, but it didn't really hold us back since most of the rides and lines are indoors or covered.
Mhm.
Uh, so
Yeah,
yeah,
so
we
like
really
what
weren't impacted that day.
how were the crowds this day at the parks?
It was surprisingly packed. We were thinking that maybe because of the storm, people had decided to, cancel or postpone their vacation, but
Mhm.
no, no, it was very crowded, but we really didn't have that long of wait times, honestly. Um, we waited maybe 20 minutes or so at most, but a lot of things were walk on. Um, so that was kind of surprising to me with how packed it was.
That is kind of surprising. But again, I just from kind of being in the business for a little bit, a lot of the locals will go stay at Disney resorts during these bad storms and hurricanes because they feel safe there, like almost safer than at their own home. And so I also wonder if it was just some locals too that were already getting checked in and, like, let's just go to the parks.
Yeah, I had heard that as well. So, I mean, if you can afford to go to Disney on a whim, that's great.
Yeah, in
You know.
Florida, and there's a very great Florida resident discount, so that's why they get to go stay so often.
Okay, yeah, that I'm
Yeah,
sure that helps a lot.
for sure. Okay,
Um,
so yeah, how was Disney at this point communicating with you as like a guest staying at one of their resorts about the stuff that was going on?
it wasn't until the next day on
Okay.
Tuesday. Um, it's kind of funny. On Tuesday, the weather was beautiful, and this was our Animal Kingdom day, so that worked out perfectly
Hmm.
because Animal Kingdom has the most outdoor activities. Um, but yeah, later on Tuesday afternoon, you had actually reached out to me to let me know that Disney had announced all the parks would be closing by 2 o'clock on Wednesday in
Hmm.
preparation for the hurricane, and then they would remain closed all of Thursday. We also did receive this info via push notification from the My Disney Experience app. And also, they left a voicemail on the phone in our room to let
Oh,
us know that as well. So there
that's
were
really good.
multiple ways that they were getting that information to us. Um, and then they had also mentioned in the voicemail that housekeeping was going to bring our outdoor furniture from the balcony inside the room, just so it wouldn't blow away or anything like that.
I didn't even think
Um,
about that. Oh my gosh, yes.
yeah, so at this point, we were starting to consider again, should we leave?
Hmm.
The Disney parks never close. I mean, I think I read that in the entire, like, what, 53 years of the
Hmm.
park's history, um, they've only closed like 10 times.
Yeah, very few
Uh,
times.
so that kind of made us think, okay, this is serious.
Hmm.
Um, but again, despite our anxiety, we decided to stay.
Yeah. Which in hindsight was a good choice, but I can definitely see at the time when you're just like, I don't know if this is the right choice.
Yes, yeah. And on Wednesday, um, the wind and rain really started to pick up, but we were determined to make the best of this short park day at Epcot. Um, Again, the rain really didn't hold us back.
Hmm.
Um, I thought maybe again that the park would be less crowded because of the storm, but again, it was packed.
That's just crazy to me. Now, on a Wednesday, because the hurricane came in Wednesday night, that is insane
Yeah.
that the park was packed.
Yeah, and I mean everyone was doing the same thing that we were, that people
Mhm.
wanted to get there as early as possible to make the most of the time that they had. And then around 2 o'clock is when the parks were shutting down, so everyone was trying to leave at the same time, and
Mhm.
it got a little bit crazy. um, we did have to wait a while for the monorail, but it really wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I was wondering if the monorail was going to be running, but I guess if there was not a lot of lightning, it will still run.
Yeah, while the parks were open, the monorail was running, so
That's good.
yeah. um, so when we got back to the resort, a cast member actually approached us to let us know that they were selling boxed meals to take to our room to have for breakfast and lunch the next day, because they weren't sure at that point if the resort restaurants would be able to open, or if the storm would still be going on and we wouldn't be able to leave our rooms. We just didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So the breakfast box had like bagels and cream cheese, a yogurt parfait, an orange, a bag of Cheez-Its, and a water bottle, all for $5.
Oh,
So
that's not bad.
yeah, I thought that was really reasonable because, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, a bottle of water alone at Disney is $4.
Yes.
So, and you really couldn't have bought all of that stuff at the store for $5. And then the best part is you didn't have to go out in the storm to get it. So I thought it was really great that Disney provided that option. And then the lunchbox had similar items, just sandwiches instead of the bagels.
Were these boxes limited to just one per person, or were they not making those limitations?
They weren't setting any limitations that I am aware of. We just grabbed what we needed and checked out there at Captain Cook's, the quick service restaurant there at the Polynesian. Yeah, so as far as I know, there weren't any restrictions on that.
When y'all got back to your resort on this day, were the restaurants still open at this time?
Yes, they were.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Because I knew that at these resorts, they will hold rooms for the cast members so they can just stay there. But I just wasn't sure if that also was, for the restaurant cast members as well, and like the cooks and stuff like that.
Yes, I think they were. They did kind of have a limited crew at the restaurants, but we ended up getting a quick service dinner from Captain Cook's while we were there picking up our box meals. So that was really convenient.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so nice that, they made it a little bit easier, I guess, for everyone.
Yeah. And at this point, we kind of started thinking about how now we were going to have an extra park day ticket and extra meal credits from reservations that had been canceled. So we were, kind of wondering, I know I had messaged you like, what do I do if we have these extra credits or extra park days, or, just trying to figure out what we should do. And then I ended up asking like, I wonder if we could extend our stay. And you had said, yeah, I mean, go check with the front desk. So we did. And they said, yeah, we can extend your stay one day, no problem. And actually gave us a great discount. So we decided to do that.
Yeah, that was a great move because me and, the other agents at the agency I work with were texting, and some of them were like sitting on hold for like 2 hours with Disney trying to extend their clients' trips, and Disney wouldn't let them do it over the phone. So that's why I knew like you just need to go ask them. And because another one of the agents was like, oh, my client got a great discount on a room. So I was like really hoping that you would get that discount, because I know it's just, could have been the resort or whatever. But yeah, sometimes it's just easier when you're there to get it done on your own than trying to like talk to people who are just like in a call center,
Right. Yeah. And it was super easy. We didn't have to like wait in line to speak with anyone or anything. We just walked right up to the counter, and they did have to call someone, I guess, to get approval on the pricing or whatever. But really, it didn't take long at all, maybe 10 minutes tops.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And they just like scanned our magic bands to extend our stay, and we were set.
So also, just for anyone listening for future notice, for people who did leave, like decided to leave, their rooms got refunded, but their dining plan and their tickets did not get refunded. And I don't think anything happened with the dining plan. I think it just they had to take that loss. But for your park tickets, if you ever have to leave Disney early, they just keep those tickets on your account so you can use them at a different time, but they do not refund them. So that's just some information out there for instances like this. You will, like Disney was even, their refund policy was great for the rooms. You could literally cancel the day before. Because I also had clients traveling. They were coming in on Friday of that week. So they were just
Okay.
kind of waiting to see what it was going to be like, if the hurricane was going to come through and do a lot of damage, or if they could still come, which they ended up still being able to go. But yeah, so the room, they're really good about refunding. It's those park tickets, they will not refund them.
Well, that's good information to have.
Yes. Okay. So did y'all have a curfew that y'all had to be in your room by a certain time?
Yes. So Disney sent out a message that evening that everyone needed to return to their rooms and shelter in place beginning at 8:30. So we kind of went to the lobby the great ceremonial house, as they call it, and just hung out in there while we could, and just kind of people watched. And the lobby was hopping. It was there were so many people in there. They had all sorts of entertainment and activities for kids, like coloring, games, even like a dance party with Mickey.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and they had all their board games in the shops on sale for 25% off.
Nice.
Just for the hurricane, so you could buy a game and take it back to your room, which we did end up doing. So we just kind of sat around and watched all the kids, having fun. And so then by the time the curfew came around at 8:30, it was getting pretty windy.
Mm-hmm.
Even though our sliding glass door that went out to our balcony was closed and locked, the curtains were kind of like billowing out from the window.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we just played our board game that we bought, Disney Life, and watched some TV. Fun. Yeah, we just sat around, watched some TV. I did end up turning on the weather because we actually had some tornado warnings pop up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there ever actually was a tornado on the ground, but it was one of those things where I guess they spotted rotation and sent that warning out. So that was kind of scary. Living in the East Tennessee area, we are very familiar with storms, but just instead of hurricanes, we deal with tornadoes. So a lot of people have asked me, what was the hurricane like? And I've told them it was just like the really intense part of the storms that we have here. That usually the really intense part usually only lasts maybe 10 minutes and then it goes back to a regular thunderstorm. But the hurricane was like that really intense part for hours and hours and hours. So it was definitely interesting.
Did it disrupt y'all's sleep? Like, was it hard to sleep because it was loud outside?
It did not disrupt my sleep. I ended up going to sleep maybe around, I don't know, midnight or so. It's funny, I actually sleep with a fan on every night. I can't sleep without some kind of noise. So I actually brought a fan from home. So I had that as white noise.
Hey, it's Jenny, just hopping on real quick. I need your help. If you are traveling to Disney, any Disney park, any Disney cruise, I need you to come on the show. I want to talk with you about your trip. Make sure to go to the show notes and fill out the form for being a guest on the show. It's so much fun. It's so easy. And this is really the best souvenir you will have from your trip. You will have yourself retelling your story pretty much forever to get to listen to. And trust me, I've told many of my trip tales, and I love going back and listening to them because it's crazy, but you will actually forget a lot about your trip. So let's prevent that from happening. Come on the show, share your trip tale, and have that little piece of your personal history forever.
My husband stayed up pretty late monitoring the situation. So the next morning, Thursday, when the storm was over, I decided that I would go for a little walk around the resort and let him get some extra sleep. But I only made it maybe like one building over until a cast member approached me and instructed me to return to my room for safety. So back I went. And I completely understood that because there were leaves and branches everywhere. So I'm sure they wanted to clean up any potential like tripping hazards in the walkways before they allowed everyone to just roam around.
And some of the buildings at the Polynesian were damaged. I think one mostly was like the shingles had come off, but nothing too serious.
Yeah, I was going to say that shortly after I returned to my room, you had messaged me that one of the buildings was damaged. I don't think it ended up being anything like major structural, but that still was kind of scary to hear that, you know, a building in my resort had been damaged.
For sure. I was just really hoping it wasn't y'all's building.
Yeah. Well, I started thinking too. I was like, well, was it mine? I didn't look at that side of the building. I don't know.
I think they evacuated a lot of the building and they had like barricades around it just from the pictures I saw. So I think that you probably would have known, especially, were you on the third floor?
I was on the second.
The second floor. Okay. So you were actually in a newer building because the older buildings, the second floors, they don't have balconies.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So, yeah, your building was probably good. It was a little bit newer.
Yeah. So when EJ woke up, we had our little box breakfast on the balcony. And we just spent the day relaxing in the room, which we really ended up being glad to have a rest day. We had walked, like 20,000 steps each day.
Yeah.
So our feet were tired. And that's definitely something that for our next trip, we want to build in a rest day or, just a day to hang out around the resort or whatever for a little bit of rest for our feet.
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing a longer trip, you have to have a rest day. And a lot of times, I mean, these resorts are so nice and fun. And if you're just at the parks all the time, you're kind of missing out a little bit of the Disney experience. So,
right. Yeah, I was glad that we got some extra time hanging out at our resort. We just watched some TV and movies and played our board game. Luckily, we already had dinner reservations at Ohana this night.
Nice.
So we didn't have to worry about another canceled reservation due to park closures or anything. And Ohana was wonderful. It was really, really good. We had a view of the pool from our table. I think there are actually two pools at Polynesian, but anyway, we had a view of one of them. And there were a lot of people out at the pool, just like nothing had ever happened.
That's so funny. So the pools were open this afternoon, evening?
Yeah, they were open.
Oh my gosh. Do you know if they happen to do the water parade, the water pageant with the lights on it? They do it on the lake. Did they do that this night, or are you not sure?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I didn't see it, but I I could have just missed it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if they did that. They probably didn't if the parks were closed, but you never know. They might have put it out there for, their guests to have some fun.
Yeah. Yeah, so on Friday, the parks reopened and it was a gorgeous sunny day. And we took full advantage of our park hopper, which we originally didn't purchase, but with all the craziness of the hurricane, we were like, you know what, let's just go ahead and get park hopper because we don't know what we're going to be able to do.
Yeah.
So this is kind of funny, but we decided we wanted to collect the Starbucks Discovery Series mugs.
Uh-huh.
So we went to all the parks to get those. And then we headed to Hollywood Studios, which we had not been to yet. So you may be wondering what we did about our extra dining credits that we ended up with, since we had one dinner that was canceled due to the hurricane, and then we ended up adding that extra day, which gave us an extra day of meals.
I didn't even think about that. Yes.
Yeah, so we had 4 table service meal credits left on our last day. And I was kind of worried about it. I was like, oh man, like we're going to lose these and not be able to use it, whatever. But I was able to get us a reservation at Le Cellier in the Canada area at Epcot. And this worked out perfectly because since this is a fancier restaurant, it costs 2 table service credits per person. So we were able to use up all our credits.
I mean, you did that like a Disney pro, if I'm being honest.
I was really surprised that there was a reservation available.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got the filet mignon and it was the best steak I've ever had.
Yes.
It was so good. And I'm really glad that we got to have this experience that we wouldn't have had if everything had gone according to our original plan.
For sure. That restaurant's so good. We love it.
Yeah, it was really good. So yeah, we're glad we stayed. If anything, the hurricane just made our trip even more memorable.
For sure.
Disney did such a great job of keeping us informed and making sure we felt prepared and safe. And it was really just a truly magical experience. In fact, we had such a great time that we have already booked our next Disney vacation for next year.
Yay! That's so exciting. I mean, Disney is addictive.
Yeah.
It is. Well, I'm so glad y'all had such a great trip because it was like that week was very stressful for me as well because with just people traveling, I just don't want people to not have a good experience on vacation because I love traveling. It's so important. And so, I'm so glad it worked out for y'all.
Yeah, I keep telling people like nothing went as planned and it was absolutely perfect.
That's awesome. I love it. So what would you say to someone who was like, I'm too scared to travel to Florida during hurricane season. I don't want to go to Disney during a hurricane season. Like, what would you say to them about that?
I would say don't worry about it. Because, this was actually a not common situation where, Orlando was in the direct path. I think they said that it's been over a century since a hurricane has taken that path. So this was kind of like the worst case scenario, and with the parks being closed and everything for that one day. But really, Disney did take care of us. They really made sure that we had everything we needed and that we were kept up to date. And even if things don't go according to what you plan, it's still going to work out. You're still going to have a great time.
Yep.
It's really hard to have a bad time at Disney, I think.
I totally agree. And Disney does do such a great job of taking care of their guests. They want to make sure that you have a great experience. They also don't want you to have a bad time.
Right.
Well, Cathy, is there anything else you would like to say about your trip?
I just think it was such a magical time. I know that I just keep saying that, but it really was wonderful. Can I just give a few highlights? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Well, my personal favorite part of the trip was on our very first morning at Disney. We had breakfast at Cinderella's royal table.
Oh, yeah.
And so we got to our reservation was at 8:05 in the morning. So we got to enter the park like before anyone else. And they took us right to the castle and sent us in the back entrance up a spiral staircase. And then we rounded the corner and there was Cinderella. And Cinderella is one of my favorites. I had on a Cinderella themed outfit that day with Cinderella on my shirt. And when I saw her, I teared up.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, like I don't know. I wasn't expecting her to be there just right around the corner. And I don't know. I guess my inner child was just so happy that I cried. And we got to take pictures with her and chat with her. It was just a lot of fun. And then, of course, once we were seated at our table, all the different princesses came around, Aurora, Jasmine, Ariel, and Merida. So it was really fun. They all had like funny little interactions in the character and everything. So that was a lot of fun. And not to mention you're in Cinderella's castle. So It was just a beautiful setting and it was just really special.
That's such a great way to start your trip as well.
Yes.
Like the perfect start.
Yeah. And then the very first ride we had to ride It's a Small World because that's just a classic.
Yep. That's great. I love it. How much fun.
Yeah. EJ and I kept saying to each other all day, like, this is just the perfect day. Like, I can't believe that we're here. We're having such an amazing time. So
it really is so much fun. Like, even as, my husband and I went in January and we just had the best time. Like, I love that Disney allows adults to feel like kids. Like, it's really nowhere else in the world can you do that,
Yeah. And we really tried to just keep the mindset of we don't have to be in a rush. We don't have to do everything. We already knew we were going to come back at some point. So we were like, we're just going to take it easy. If we don't get to do something, we're not going to be upset over it. We'll see it next time or whatever. But really at Magic Kingdom, we were able to do everything we wanted to do. So
that's great. And that's such a great mindset. And I think when you have that mindset, you typically will get to do everything you want to. It's when you're frantic and rushing around and trying to do too much, that's when things really start falling apart.
Yeah, I think that's true.
So what else? Do you have any other fun highlights?
Um, well, this isn't really super fun, but I had mentioned that we originally didn't purchase park hopper.
Mm-hmm.
We were just going to go, one park each day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on Tuesday, so our second day, EJ and I hopped on the monorail and got to Epcot. And we made it through the park entrance, and grabbed a map, and we sat down, and we're just going to kind of map out our day, orient ourselves to the park, and figure out what our first move was going to be. Well, the first thing EJ asks me is, okay, so let's figure out what time is our dinner reservation and where is it? And I was like, let me look in the app. And I saw Yak and Yeti.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately I was like, oh no, we're at the wrong park.
Okay, let's get real. When was the last time you got to feel like a child again? For a lot of people, it's been a really long time. And with all the craziness in the world right now, we all need to escape reality for just a little bit. I would love to help you have that childlike feeling again, whether it be on a couple's trip, a girl's trip, or a trip with your family. Right now, I am booking Disney Park vacations through 2025 and Disney cruises through May of 2026. Let's get a magical vacation on the calendar for you. All of my services are complimentary to my clients, so there really is no reason not to take advantage of my expert experience. See the show notes for a quote form or email me at jenny@trolleylanetravel.com and let's make your travel dreams a reality.
Yak and Yeti is at Animal Kingdom. This was supposed to be our Animal Kingdom day.
Oh no.
So after a brief moment of panic, we were like, this is fine. This is fine. This is not the end of the world. We'll just go ahead and get park hopper. So we went right back out of Epcot to the ticket booth and purchased park hopper. It wasn't a big deal. And then we went over to Animal Kingdom and spent the rest of our day there. So again, it ended up all working out because with the parks closing early on Wednesday and being closed completely on Thursday, we really kind of needed that flexibility in order to make it to everything that we wanted to do. So again, it all worked out. Yeah.
And park hopper is great if it's in people's budget, just for the flexibility. You don't have to use it, but it's there if you want to.
Right. And it really wasn't as much as I thought that it was, I had in my head that it was.
Yeah.
And it really ended up being worth it for us.
That's good. I mean, I think that was a pretty good mistake on your part.
Yeah.
Trip.
Yeah. Again, like we told everyone, nothing went as planned, and it was absolutely perfect.
That's so great. I love it.
Yeah. So, another thing that was kind of a little bit of a bummer, I had actually gotten us behind the scenes for the Living with the Land ride. My husband and I are gardeners, so my husband especially was really interested in that ride, and he had never ridden it before. So yeah, I had gotten us the behind the scenes to like tour the garden and stuff.
Yeah, how was that?
Well, unfortunately, it ended up being canceled because it was on that Wednesday that the parks closed early. So we didn't get to do that, but again, we're coming back. We can do it another time. So
For sure. And that typically is an easier tour to get. So it usually doesn't sell out until maybe closer to like day of. So
yeah. And
I've
it
always wanted
wasn't
to see that tour.
yeah, and it wasn't that expensive and they refunded us already. No big deal.
Well, that is good to know. But yeah, that would be a fun tour to go on. Did he like Living with the Land, the ride?
Yes, he loved it. In fact, I got him a t-shirt to wear that had like Living with the Land on it.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up wearing that on the day that we went to Animal Kingdom because we thought we were going to be spending the day at Epcot that day. But anyway, he ended up wearing that to Animal Kingdom. And we were about to get in line for the Navi River journey in Pandora. And the wait was like 45 minutes or so. And we were like, that's all right. We'll wait. And as we were getting in line, there was a cast member and he was like, oh man, I love your shirts. Like Living with the Land is my favorite ride. I actually used to work that ride. So, that's awesome. Living with the Land doesn't get enough representation, whatever.
Oh, that's fun.
And yeah. And then he was like, do y'all have fast passes or I'm sorry, I don't remember. Is it Lightning Lane now
Yeah,
or? Okay, yeah. He asked us if we had Lightning Lane and we said no. And he was like, okay, go ahead and step over here and scan your magic bands. And we were like, oh, okay. And then he was like, that's on me. Y'all get Lightning Lane on me because I love your shirt so much.
What? That's great.
Yeah. So we ended up getting right on the ride. And that's a really cool ride. It really feels like you're in a different world.
It's so pretty.
Yeah. So we were happy about that.
That's really cool. Y'all got pixie dusted.
Yeah, I heard someone else. I told one of my friends that, and she's a big Disney fan too, and she said that. Oh yeah, you got pixie dusted.
Love when that happens. It's so fun, and it's so unexpected, so it's always exciting.
Yeah, and we had no idea. We were wondering why he was having us scan our magic bands,
right?
And then we were like, oh. Oh, one thing that I was so excited about. In Magic Kingdom, like right near Casey's Corner, there is a piano player.
Yeah.
And he only plays, I think, like a couple of shows. I don't know if it's every day or maybe every other day. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's there every day, but it's not for a long amount of time.
Yeah. So we actually were able to catch one of his shows, and I was so excited because I actually like watch videos that people post of him on TikTok and stuff. With my husband and I both being musicians, we really enjoy that. And so we caught him, and we were like, "Oh my goodness!" And he turned around to me and asked if I had a request. And Mary Poppins is one of my very favorite Disney movies. So I asked him if he knew any Mary Poppins, and he was like, "Oh, yes, best Disney movie ever." Of course I know Mary Poppins. So he ended up playing like a medley of all the songs from Mary Poppins, and it was amazing.
I'm gonna remember that. So if I never got to see him play, but if I do, that's what I'm gonna request because that I would love to hear that.
Yeah, it was really good. Also, my husband requested Everybody Wants to Be a Cat from the Aristocats, and that was really good too.
Oh, I love it. That's one of my daughter's favorite movies.
Yeah, that's a good one.
She loves the beginning too when they have to do the smoking, like They're smoking in this movie. She thinks that's so funny. She's like, why do they do that? And I'm like, honey, back in the old days, they put all kinds of stuff in movies.
They really did. And then they would still be G-rated.
Yes, that's the craziest thing. Oh man, so funny. Well, I love that. That's fun. Yeah, I've always wanted to see him play because I've seen videos of him playing, but I'm just never in that area when he's playing.
Yeah, we just happened to catch him at the right time.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Lots of fun.
We also got to hear the Liberty Tree singers. So that was really exciting. We weren't sure if they were going to be there because this was actually on Wednesday, so the day that the parks closed early.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to talk with them afterward, and they were like, yeah, this is our last show of the day and we are headed out. Like, so we were glad we got to catch them as well.
Oh, that's a beautiful show.
Yeah. Yeah, they actually invited us to come sit in the floor, like right in front of them, so that the sound from the rotunda, we would be like immersed in the sound. So that was really cool.
Yeah, and you really are immersed in it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed, like, even on the days that it was raining a lot, like I said, there's plenty of stuff to do indoors. A lot of the rides are indoors, and then there are just so many shows as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, you can pretty much do Disney on a rainy day, no problem. The only park it would be hard is Animal Kingdom.
Right. And we got so lucky that day was gorgeous.
Yeah. Absolutely. That one, most of the stuff's outside, so that'd be tough. And Hollywood Studios is iffy.
Yeah.
But like Epcot and Magic Kingdom, you can definitely go in the rain and you would be fine.
Yeah. Oh, and that's another thing. We went to Hollywood Studios on our last day. So this was after the storm. And we went to the Indiana Jones show. And, there's normally like 3 scenes that they do in that show. Unfortunately, we only got to see the first 2 because the third scene, I think they have like an airplane that, I don't know, that is in that scene, and the airplane was damaged during the storm. So we didn't get to see that part, unfortunately, but it was still a really great show.
I haven't seen that show in so long, I don't even remember. But I just remember the beginning when the big ball's rolling or the big rocks, and he's right. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, I really wondered if, besides some of the roofs at some of the resorts, like in the parks, if anything had been damaged. They didn't really talk about anything, so obviously nothing major was damaged, but I know there had to have been some little things here and there, just like that airplane.
Yeah, I'm sure there was. I didn't notice anything, but yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I bet that day the parks were closed was for cleanup.
Yeah, and something I didn't think of, with the parks closing early the day before, I'm sure there was a lot of stuff that they had to secure. Like, just think about all the trash cans at Disney. You definitely don't want those flying all over the place. So I'm sure they had to secure those somehow. And anything else that could potentially become, a projectile.
Yeah, I would like to think they probably have like a whole crew that kind of comes in and handles that. Like, I'm sure it's a ton of people because they didn't really have a whole lot of time to finish probably before the storm really started coming through.
Right. And something else is at the resort, I noticed they actually had a hurricane, like dedicated hurricane team that came in. They were all dressed in yellow head to toe. And they were riding around on golf carts, like, I guess just making sure that everything was safe. I'm not really sure what their purpose was, but I
That's
just know they were dedicated hurricane team that was brought in.
Huh. I think it's kind of funny. They were all dressed in yellow. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, I know. They were like little minions or something.
That's crazy. But I guess so regular cast members would be able to differentiate them.
Yeah, and easy to spot.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. What a crazy job. I'm on the hurricane team at Disney.
But yeah, the day after the storm, I had mentioned there were branches and leaves everywhere. I mean, there were parts of the walkways that you couldn't even see. It just looked like just leaves.
Mm-hmm.
But by about noon, they had that place looking like Hurricane Milton like all the leaves and branches and everything were all cleaned up. And yeah, it just looked like nothing ever happened.
Doesn't surprise me, but that is amazing to actually have the opportunity to see something like that.
Yeah, and the attention to detail really was just crazy to see.
Well, Cathy, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all of this amazing, valuable information for me and for anyone else who would be traveling next year during hurricane season. And a lot of people don't realize hurricane season is actually August through October. So it's a long season.
Yeah, we just happened to hit the tail end of it there.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun getting to, kind of recap our experience and kind of relive it again.
That's a wrap on today's show. As always, thanks for listening. Make sure to visit us on Instagram at Disney Travel Tales. If you're wanting to support the show, the best and easiest way to do that is to leave a 5-star positive review on Apple Podcasts. It's so easy and means the world to me. Can't wait to be back next week with you. So until then, this is Jenny, and may all your Disney travel dreams come true.